Hello and welcome back to Alex Goes Sailing. In the last episode you would have seen me install some electronics on Meraki and get the loom completed. Now I'd like to thank everyone who subscribed already, as we've just hit 500 subscribers, but if you haven't done so already, please subscribe as there's a lot more to come. Now in this episode we're going to get on with painting the hull of Meraki. So when I got Meraki, she was dark blue up top and white on the bottom. The paint was horrible and chipping off, and the bottom paint was just dreadful, not smooth. So a couple of episodes ago I painted the top deck. We did a white and a baby blue, which matched what Masumi was back in the day, and this came out really well. Now I had to remove all the old paint because I wanted a fresh start, so I had to get to sanding. So I did a quick test patch with the two-part paint that I was going to use, and that turned out well. So I cracked on with the sanding, and for the sanding I used my orbital sander, which you would have seen in an episode earlier, and this was used with about an 80 grit, 60 grit paper just to get it off, and you could see there's actually multiple layers of paint and anything before I got to the gel coat at all. Now I decided not to go past the gel coat and keep to some sort of layers of paint. So you can see it's very spotty, but that saved me doing a whole lot of fairing and sanding on top of that. And you can clearly see the paint before has been painted over. I think there's at least 3 layers, and you can get back, and the actual below that, the base is actually a blue. So you see that blue, that is the gel coat. Now, after all that sanding, I got to this, and I could finally apply the paint. This was the outcome, and the two-part paint that we used went on really well. I ended up using a roller to apply this, and then just rolled and then tipped with the roller as well, which left a pretty good finish. I can go back and sand and polish it, but I don't think I will, because I like to sail my boat and practical. Not too worried about if it gets knocked up, so I'm not too worried about that. But the finish was pretty good for what it was, and I did about 7 or 8 coats, so that should be plenty if I wanted to go back and sand and polish or anything like that. Now I started to put on the rubbing strakes. I decided to use a hardwood, and I got some nice stainless steel bolts, 316 stainless, and I started bolting it up so I could get a rough gauge on size and cutting it a piece of wood. So I had to do 2 lengths to do the whole length of one side, and do a join in the middle, and that came out pretty well. This is just getting ready so I could actually get the holes drilled and have the piece of wood ready so I could get it all varnished up. Varnishing off the boat was the best idea, because doing it on the boat didn't make any sense, and the outcome was really good, and I could actually make sure I get a few coats on there, and it looks really good, smart. Now, time for some bottom paint.
Bottom.
Right, when sanding up the bottom of the boat to get rid of the old anti-foul multiple layers of weird stuff that just gunked up, I tried using the orbital, really aggressive grit, and that just gunked up instantly. So I found the best thing for it was I think this is like 60 or 80 grit, probably 80 grit, but the belt sander actually rips it clean off, doesn't give it a chance to gum up or stick or anything. But you've got to be careful because it's quite aggressive, so it will rip through everything. So you're just getting it mostly off. The odd bits don't matter because you just go back over it quickly with the orbital, and that doesn't matter too much because the only little bits here won't get hot enough to actually gum up. So definitely this. Good job, and made it much quicker because I started off with the orbital, did like an hour with it, and it just wasn't happening. So got this out and cracked out in, well, the rest of the, it must have been 2 days, 3 days I was doing it. So definitely worth its weight in gold. This is only a cheapo, it's like 30 quid or something, so definitely worth it. Ripped it right out, and these pads, they come in a pack of 10. I think I went through maybe 5 or 6, because eventually they do rip apart the seam when you get going. But then you just go back over the entire boat with the orbital. Now luckily for you guys, you didn't actually have to sand this. I did, and it was horrible. Underneath the boat, laying on your back, sanding with a belt sander, no fun at all. And it took absolutely ages. But the belt sander was the fastest way. Luckily I didn't get into any gel coat, which is good. And then a quick orbital sand and we were good to go. I luckily managed to find the original waterline from the gel coat underneath, so I could mask that off with some Gorilla tape, which works really well, better than any masking tape or anything like that. And I think it went a little too high on the back, but that doesn't matter too much. Right, the paint I'm going to be using for the bottom of the boat is, first off, this primer barrier coat. It's precision, nice grey. This stuff dries real quick and it's just single stage, just paint it on, bish bash bosh, done. So as you can see, I've already done a little bit with it. Really good. I like the finish of it. It's good to paint onto with the actual anti-foul I'm using, which is this stuff. I was limited for choice at the store that I was getting at, and this is a trailer sailor, so it doesn't really, anti-foul isn't so much of a problem because it's not just sat in the water for weeks on end. At most it's going to be out for a week or two, and that's like the max. Normally it's just weekends or slightly longer weekends. So I decided to get the slightly darker blue to kind of match the theme of the boat with it blue and white, because you can get different colours, but it's still limited on price for that. But I mean, this will do the job, and well, you'll see how it came out. So I got the barrier coat down and it came out really well. Dries in about 15-20 minutes, and you leave it to cure a bit longer than that before we get on to the actual anti-foul. But using a roller was the best way to get this stuff on, and was pretty quick to go on. Covers really nicely, so I think I did about 2 coats of this stuff, which is what they recommend, so that looks good. Then it was time to apply the anti-foul, and this went on really well, just as well as the barrier coat. Ended up using a roller again because using a paintbrush would be silly because it would just drip on you when you're underneath the boat. Now the finish was really good, and I did about 3-4 coats, which is plenty for this. The first coat was quite an easy one to put on top of the barrier coat, and it seemed to not have any significant reactions, which is good. Right, so under the boat, it's been painted a little while now, and I've had the through hole fitting in there with the paddle wheel, and the sonar still spins freely, which is good. Looks like it's coming off the edges, but it didn't want any paint on the edges of the sonar when fitted, so I kind of had to go with that. Most of the time it spins out the water, so this is good enough. But yeah, good install with a bit of silica flex, squeezed in there, nipped up, and then wait till it cures, and then you nip it up properly, and then you're done. So that was quite an easy install, not too difficult, and it's positioned here because it's in front of the 2 keels on each side, which is what it calls for when you look in the little book. And it's more forward the better, because then you can see what's coming sooner rather than having it at the rear or in the middle. So yeah. Now removing the masking tape on the waterline was the most satisfying part of the job, and just finishes up and it looks really clean and nice. I've still got to add some sort of detail line to the top of the, just below the deck hull joint, because most of these tiny boats have that little detail, like a blue stripe running down the side. So I'll put that on at some point, but really I want to get it in the water ASAP, so that'll be another project down the line. Might even do like a vinyl sticker or something, because it'd be much easier. Now if you guys could leave a comment down below on what you think of the paint job and the colour I went for, that'd be awesome, and I'll get back to you all. And in the next episode we'll probably be doing some sort of rigging and deck hardware on Meraki, so you got to look forward to that. And subscribe if you haven't done so already, as there is a lot more to come down the line. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.